So, welcome everybody to, first of all, can everybody hear me? I don't want to start talking and for there to be problems. Yes. Okay, perfect. Well, first of all, thank you all for coming. It's really nice to see that that there's actually quite a few people joining us, and interested in, sorry, I'm just gonna mute people. Um, that people are interested in enough to in applying to come and join us in our open house. It's the first time that we do it, of course, and obviously the goal for us is to improve like the quality of applications and just really also get an idea if you know being on the InciSioN International team is for you, right? So just getting an overview of like everybody joining us from many different parts of the world. There I see a lot of representation from Brazil. Very nice to see how much enthusiasm we have from there. I will be using Mentimeter for a few um, just open questions. And the reason why I'm doing it like this is mostly because like that way we can all see on the screen and on the recording like what it is, an overview of everybody's responses and questions. So that way we can do it. So I love how there's somebody from the North Pole. I didn't realize that we reached that far to the North Pole. This is very nice. So Colombia, that's very nice to see that we were also reaching there because well, I studied in Spain, so I'm actually a Spanish speaker, and half of my family is Spanish, so very enthusiastic to see that we have Colombians. And yeah, so I think we can just start in with the first question. And so my first question is going to be, what is the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word incision, right? Because over the course of this meeting, we'll debunk a few myths, we'll clarify, what to expect and like those types of things, and we'll see like if the thing that you um if what your preconceptions about us matches reality. So it'll be kind of nice to see. I'll just give 1 minute to see what we've got here. You can obviously answer in the chat box, but like the rest of us won't see it on the screen. Global surgery, networking. Well, it's in the name, surgery, right? International Student Surgical Network, right? So that'd be expected. It's more networking, which is true. We'll see to what extent it is true. Yeah, I see how surgery is like be number one. Yeah, that's true. Advocacy. Yes. And actually, you say that just in time because our director of advocacy just came in. So yes, that that word came in just now. Improving skills. Okay, yes. Sharing ideas. I love that. That's a lot of team building. Global surgery advocacy, student surgical network from worldwide. Yes. This I'm reading from the chat box. So, yes, this is all very true. Okay, so I think we have an idea of what people think about incision. We'll see now if how right we are or not. In your predictions. So I'm just gonna like share a quick presentation. It's going to be mostly brief about very basic things, and then we'll just move on to the bulk of it, which will be Q&A. Okay, so let me just switch over to my presentation. Is everybody able to see my presentation?
Yeah, we are, Angie.
Okay, perfect. So, welcome. This is the QR code again, so in case you guys want to participate as well. But here we go. So, number one, who are we, right? So we are InciSioN Global, right? And we are the global body of what we call the International Student Surgical Network. That's what InciSion stands for, right? We are, as a very basic, we are a global nonprofit organization in special consultative status with the UN ECOSOC, which is the Economic and Civil Society Forum, and we unite about 5,000 students, trainees, and early career physicians, professionals in global surgery. Now, to this, I would like to add we're also on the WHO Youth Council and Civil Society Commission. And so this gives us like more direct communication work with the WHO, which will discuss like later on how that's very important in our activities, right? So I would also like to add here uh, why we mentioned that we unite students, trainees, early career physicians, and professionals in global surgery, right? And this like answers our very first quite like most frequently asked question. You have no idea how many times we're bombarded with this question is who is eligible, you know? The short answer is anybody who's interested in global surgery, right? I'll give you guys a very brief overview of why this is the way it is later on. But the reason why is global surgery is more than just the OR. It's more than just the surgeon. And so it's not just like, you know, us medical students, right? Because at the moment, most of us are in medicine. It includes people in nursing. It includes people in occupational therapy, rehabilitation, all that stuff, because ultimately surgery, you know, it's a journey of the patient. I'll get more into that later, but the you do not have to be a student, even though it's in the name International Student Surgical Network, but we have the name student because we are basically the youth organization in global surgery, right? If you think about it, when you're a student, up until you're a trainee and even an early career physician, you're very much still learning, okay? And since you're learning, by definition, you're a student of some sort. Call yourself a resident, an apprentice, whatever. You know, this is our focus. It's the youth in global surgery, right? Our network extends like over 50 national working groups. It's growing every single year. And so what we are is the global body. We're governed by we're made up of the international team, which is the main purpose of this open house, and you are led by us, the executive board. So let's continue on. Oh, so this is sort of the overview on the organizational like structure of InciSioN Global. This is from previous terms, and you'll notice that we actually have a few changes and differences. Um, and essentially what you'll see is that the international team is made up of many different sub-teams, right? We'll go through these and like individually later. You'll probably maybe have specific questions for specific teams, you know, but essentially in order to apply to be on the executive board, you first need to be part of the international team. We consider that important because like or else it's way too steep of a learning curve. And in order to apply, you need to either have been on the IT or have been in on the leadership of on the respective executive boards of national working groups. You'll see here that we have national working groups here. This does not mean that they're beneath us. This does not mean that at all. This just means that the way that we communicate with our national working groups, right, which are like call it branches, chapters of InciSioN, right? Which focuses on global surgery, the youth in global surgery in specific nations, in specific countries, right? We communicate with them through the National Working Group team of InciSioN Global, you know? And so the National Working Groups are more like a branch, like a part of InciSioN that branches off of us, right? So that is what we have in terms of um national working groups. We previously said we have like about 50 plus, and again, it's still growing. This this map isn't even completely up to date. We have like InciSioN South Korea, we have InciSioN Saudi Arabia, Singapore, et cetera, et cetera. So we have like several additional national working groups to add even to this list, but we're present in pretty much all of the five WHO regions, right? And this is super key because like a huge misconception as well is that like even though we're based like as a nonprofit officially in an HIC country, right? We're based in Belgium at the moment, and it's not we very much focus in LMICs, but it's not. But global surgery is not just LMICs, right? Either, because it's about access to surgery globally, right? All scenarios, whether you're in a high income country or low income country. Even high income countries have a lot of disparity, right? In rural areas or in low resource settings, this is also applicable. So like if you're coming from an HIC, you very much can still it's still very much relevant to you or to the National Working Group. And then especially in LMICs, we try to be as equitable as possible. So, so this is the overview, and and here are some posts that maybe you are familiar with, that we've, you know, blasted everywhere on all of our social medias. Essentially, we have a few changes to go over, and especially we have a very detailed job description of what to expect from each sub-team. Now, for the first thing I would like to clarify is that when you apply or even when you become part of the international team, you will not be expected to do every single thing on that like outline, right? Um, and you're very much not required to know all that going in, right? We're very much um, open to being your very first experience in global surgery, right? It's about mostly about attitude and how you're going to learn, and how well are you going to adapt to a fast-paced environment and stuff like that, right? And even when you become part of the international team, you won't be expected to do every single thing, one of those things, because it's absolutely impossible, right? If you're part of the executive board, it can include all of that, yes. But on the international team, not necessarily, right? Going over like the sub teams that you can join, here are the 12 teams, which used to be 10, but now they're 12. Um, and 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 so the new teams, right? I'm just gonna go over them really quick. The ones that we all know, especially if you're reapplying from previous years, right? Internal affairs, external affairs, finance, national working groups. Public relations used to be called public relations, but now it's called the Public Relations and Engagement Team. For those interested in joining that team, you can read this description here, and you'll understand why we've adjusted that. And then we have, our core three action groups, right? Advocacy, research, and education teams. Those are usually the biggest ones and the most popular ones. But of course, like our job is also to explain like all the teams as well, because like what advocacy, research, and education can achieve is ever so much limited, depending on how everything else functions, right? And you'll see how a lot of projects actually involve so many sub-teams collaborating. Our alumni affairs team is in charge of the alumni network, and our new sub teams are going to be operations and programming team, which isn't entirely new. Okay. That's a replacement for our events team, right? It's a much more accurate description of what it is that we expect and look for in the events and people organizing events. It's more on operations, logistics, that type of stuff. And then fellowships and training programs. We have grown so much to the extent that we have a lot of programs and initiatives that have already surpassed concept stages and that are either ready to be launched, have recently been launched, etc. That our team is just way too small to handle it. We need like a specific team dedicated to these things. Fellowships and training, that does not necessarily mean um, uh, that's not it's people who manage all of our like mentorship programs, our exchange programs, and that type of stuff, right? And this is super important. And also, it's a great this one in particular. I saw like a lot of in the word cloud. A lot of people answered networking. This is how you do networking, right? There's other teams, of course, where you do networking as well, but this is how we leverage networking, right, through our programs. And then finally, we have a very new thing, which is called the Strategic Working Groups team, right? Which is supposed to mirror, in a way, the National Working Groups team, right? Because we are prepared to launch and establish a new branch of InciSioN, which is dedicated specifically for for working groups in certain strategic priority areas, right? Um, I mentioned before that we're in the WHO Youth Council. So again, and that should ring a lot of bells throughout the entire thing, right? Because we really want to align ourselves with what the WHO is saying, recommending, and aligning ourselves with the overall global surgery community, right? And in order to do this, our strategic plan needs to be on point, and we need to be able to properly address the multiple different um, domains of global surgery, or domains in which global surgery is active and relevant, right? So these are our main changes. I don't want to like get into too much detail per se, because that will be the will obviously explain things in much greater detail once we're doing training, and like once you've been provisionally accepted, right? And things will be explained in much better detail, and et cetera, et cetera. But it's like right now it's mostly a matter of like, do the things that you see in the job description, and high like overall, um make you like match with your interests and your current skills, or skills that you're hoping to improve, right? So it's a lot about that. Um, so are there any questions yet? As of yet? Pratyush, would you like to add anything?
Sure, Angie, thank you so much. So most of the questions in the chat box I've been able to answer. I know a lot of you have queries about, the national working groups in your country, which I think is something really interesting for us to share as well. because just send us an email and we'll connect with you with the leadership of that specific country. And maybe if there's not a national working group in your country, you can be the first chair who can install a national working group in your country, and lead that national working group and have a national NGO working in your own country, and be the president or the potential chair of that. And I think that would be really exciting for you to look at an opportunity, and we are here as a global body to support you in for building that national working group and sending you a list of opportunities and capacity required to do that. So feel free to just shoot emails to us, and we'll happy to help you in any capacity. There are a few national working groups which have been asked in the chat where because of some instability in the region and various issues, that sometimes the medical students or the leadership kind of goes inactive, and we'll be more than happy to to rejuvenate those national working groups, specifically as we believe it's really important for global surgery to be in places where it needs to be the most, right? And on that note, I think I've answered most of the questions. And yeah, I just to the previous slide, Angie, if you can go to the previous slide. I had one thing to add to this.
The national working group side.
Yeah, no worries. So for the strategic working groups,
Oh,
one more slide
this one
behind.
or
Yeah, I think this one more slide behind to that.
this
Yeah,
one?
to this structure, this is the old structure. And as Angie is explaining, we have a very new structure, and something which I'll explain you about the SWGs as well, because I know a lot of you wants to do surgery. And one thing very important to keep in mind is that global surgery is more of an ecosystem, like Angie explained, where there are medical doctors, nursing students, and even biomedical engineers. Angie is a medical doctor and is currently doing her biomedical engineering, right? And at the same time, there are multiple professions who come together to find, solutions to the problems in global health and global surgery per se. Now, something interesting we have done with the SWGs, with the strategic working groups, I'll just name some of the priority topics which we have kept, which means that one of the IT member would be the team lead of one of the strategic working group and generate that opportunities. We have chosen global cardiovascular surgery, digital health and global surgery, trauma and acute care, global neurosurgery, sustainable surgical technology and innovations, anesthesias and pain management, perioperative nursing care, reconstructive and burn surgery, integrated health systems and One Health, women reproductive and child health. The only reason of going through this list is to give you an idea that how things will get integrated. If you were someone who's really passionate about neurosurgery, and you'll have opportunity to explore that in incision as well. And what you'll do is you'll collaborate with the research team to do a research in that field, or with the education team to do any educational initiative, or with the advocacy to spread awareness about that. And as Anjay said, this does look like an hierarchy, but we are a flat structure. So an EB and IT, we are all just subsets of each other. And I think that's all I would like to add at the same time. And Angie, if you can move 2 slides to the new ahead. Then the other two teams is the fellowship training programs, because we have connections in multiple universities worldwide and multiple training programs as well. And the reason we introduced this team as well is because we want to solidify that, because we see a growing interest in medical students to have observerships and clerkships and rotations in different settings, so that they can experience a global healthcare, right? So that's why we have come up with this specific program where there would be in-person fellowships and training programs in global health and surgery and medicine and various specialty as well. So, it's a huge list, and I would definitely encourage you to go through all the prior teams and, look at the one which aligns most with your, interest. At the same time, also look if you would like to read, lead one of the teams, or, in a way that also apply for a national working group in your country, and, be the first person to bring global surgery to your country in the medicals for the medical students and trainees. So thank you so much. Over to you, back to you, Angie.
Yes, thank you so much for that. I definitely agree. Like, one of the ways that you'll be able to definitely study more or align global surgery with your specific interests or your current like aspirations in your career will be the strategic working groups. Now, you don't have to be part of you don't have to be part of the strategic working groups team in order to be part of one, just like how you're not required to be you can be part of a national working group and still be in another and in any of our sub teams and be anything related to InciSioN Global, right? You don't have to um, be exclusive, like be specifically in the strategic working groups team if you really want to align your global surgery with your interest, with your, you know, professional interests, right? What we're advertising here are the international team made up of sub teams, right? And the sub teams help with the coordination of all of and leadership, and are basically the minds behind a lot um, of our initiatives, right? So here I'm going to give you another debunk another myth of InciSioN, is that if, like, for example, if you're on the research team, that means that you're going to be doing all these research projects. That's not necessarily true, okay? um, Research you can do in every single team. You know, research is one of the activities that we do, and it's coordinated by the research team, right? So managing the ethics and the permissions behind it, communicating with our supervisors, faculty, that type of stuff. Okay, so um, we say that because we want to make sure that like people actually apply for what they are interested in, and and have a clear idea of what each team is about, right? The like external affairs team does a lot of like that doesn't mean that you yourself go on delegations. You might, and you probably will be the first ones to go, you know, but a lot of the job is also training and getting and building the capacity in others to be able to go on delegations, right? And be the ones in charge of those briefings and such, and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I'll continue on to the next thing. So um first of all, I think like before you even apply, you know, you really need to identify very importantly our mission and vision, and ensure that you align with it, right? Because if you don't really align with it, then you're not really going to find your motivation is going to tank. It's not going to be there, right? So our mission is, in short, to unite and develop, mentor the future health professionals in the world of global surgery. And our vision is access to safe, timely, and affordable surgical healthcare for everyone, everywhere, when needed. You'll hear a lot in global surgery about it being the field of that advances um, universal like access, and by access we mean safe, timely, and affordable access to surgical, anesthetic, obstetric care everywhere, right? Now, this is something that we do, like we align, like this mission and vision is very similar to a lot of other organizations. And what makes us unique at the end of the day is that we're the youth organization, and our approach to it has a unique touch to it, right? As being part of the youth, right? We're not going to be doing things the same way. So now what I want to clarify about what we do is global surgery, right? And I'm not gonna get into details about like actual concepts of global surgery, but this that I will explain is kind of important because it's kind of needed to conceptualize if InciSioN is for you or not, right? So first of all, global surgery, as we said, is a field that addresses safe, timely, and affordable access to surgical care. What it's not, right, is exclusively missionary work, right? And this is really important, right? Because global surgery, at the end of the day, if you think about it, right, access to surgery, okay, it's mostly about surgical systems and establishing the proper surgical systems worldwide that allow for this. So, in terms of capacity building skills and like actual surgical training, right? That's only like a part of it. Yes, we will do like things on, you know, surgical training and like that type of stuff because, you know, ensuring there's an adequate workforce, surgical workforce out there is important, yes. But it's equally important because you'll once you start studying and learning about global surgery, it's just as important stigma about getting certain surgeries, right? That may be necessary or may be life-saving. energy. Where does all of our energy come from, right? To power the OR, our anesthesia and everything. It's just as important. Transport and infrastructure, like if you can't get to the hospital in time, or if it's way too far away, then that's a problem. It doesn't matter if you have like an OR, you're not going to get there in time, right? Having adequate financial models, like one of the hugest um, barriers to access to surgery is finance, right? It's super, super costly setting up an OR and having everything set there. And additionally, all the other things that support the act of a surgery, right? Um, and by that I mean like all like put like the surgical journey of a patient is the surgical journey of a patient is essentially not just in the OR. It's preoperative preparation, it's postoperative. Antimicrobial resistance is super important. This are all things that we hope to touch on our strategic working groups, right? And so ultimately, this is what we do, right? We are an NGO, and our role is this. Okay, so and it's only until you understand this is that when you become part of the international team, something very basic to expect is that you will first I don't know what happened to my slide. You will be first doing studying and learning on what global surgery is, because you can't like pretend to do any of these activities and things without proper training and understanding. So this year we're going to be hammering very, very hard your training. Will like past members that continue will be there to mentor you through it and all that stuff. And then you will be able, once you've passed the training period, you'll be able to lead, collaborate, like everything. And when we talk about leading and collaborating, and this is like super important for it to be very apparent in applications, right? Is we need to get a good, like we need to be confident that you're good at communicating, that you have are good at time management, right? Because like the youth is like we're still studying, most of us. A lot of us have very intense shifts and all that's and etc. So these are very key things that we need to be able to very clearly identify in your applications. And then you can like network, make an impact, do all of this stuff. Ultimately, the sky is the limit, right? When if you have an idea and it makes sense and it aligns well with our mission and vision, we'll do our best to make it happen. So as long as it's legal and ethical, right? Sky's the limit, right? So let me just present it again. Oh, now it's working. Okay. So, and it's only until that you understand this is that you have to really like invest a lot of time in learning and understanding, is that you will uh, that you'll have to like learn about global surgery first, is because it's only until then that, for example, if you do advocacy, you're not going to be able to prepare an adequate theme or establish what the priorities should be, or do strategic planning or engage with partners, because that's also an art. Engaging with partners, it's a very political landscape, right? That you'll be able to successfully do like the many campaigns that we do, right? It's only until then that, for example, when you're on a delegation, if you are on a delegation, or if you're, briefing a delegation, that you'll be able to push for, XYZ goals, right? And by the way, for like delegations, the amount of teams involved in that, like external affairs, absolutely 100%, right? But also, I'm the VP of finance, so the finance team, also like contributes, especially if there's anything to do with, helping fund or even partially fund travel. And advocacy team is very much involved because you have to establish your priority areas, what it is that you want to achieve, right? Um, and additionally, the national working groups team, because a lot of the times our delegates are national working groups. So these are some of the many like um, delegations that we've sent this year. This year has actually been the year of delegations, interestingly, well, like very successfully. We actually went to the World Health Summit. We get invited to WHO Youth Council. All of these things, when we engage publicly, this is like everybody needs to be all hands in and like doing their part, right? And it's and without everybody doing their part, like the problems happen, and then you procrastinate. So these are some of the many delegation programs that we aim to do every single year. And ultimately as well, like it's only until you first know as well, and I'm really hammering this, that you have to like learn and like stop and learn first before you do, right? Is because we also do a lot of capacity building, and we're hoping to expand that capacity building to also include the general public, right? Not just the medical community, right? So you have to not only know about global surgery, but you also have to know a little bit of pedagogy if you're in the education team, like knowing who your audience is and being able to adapt what it is that you're teaching to that different audience, right? So like all of these activities, even the mentorship program, right? Requires specific skills, right? Because like when you involve like other organizations to be part of your mentorship program, it requires like very consistent and appropriate engagement with them, right? Anytime we engage with other organizations, that's you know they are stakeholders in a way, right? Um, and so we have like so many activities, and every single one of them requires multiple teams. Every year we go to we have an event at the American College of Surgeons, right, which is hybrid. And we have our InciSioN Global Surgery Symposium, right, which the next one will be in 2025. So again, like a lot of the things that we do, right, and I'm just like going through this, like um even in research, you can't pretend to be doing research until you actually know like what you're talking about in global surgery, right? Like this is the extent to where you get like the epitome of doing all of these projects is you applying your knowledge in global surgery, right? And the reason why and comes to the end of the presentation, and I just want to like finish up saying the reason why we think it's important, and we always advocate that the youth should have a space in global surgery, right? Is that it changes your mindset, right? Once you like learn and get exposed to it, right? While you're still in training, while you're still learning, right? You are learning about your, clinically or in engineering or whatever, with a different lens, right? Because if you know that there's certain problems, right? And you have unconventional ways of solving them, or you like learn about something else, but it's never been applied to like the to access of global access of surgical care, then you might be the very first person to apply that, right? And also it's just the world, like we are the future of the world, right? So I think like that covers mostly what we are, what we intend to be for you guys, and what we intend to be in the global surgery community as the youth organization in global surgery. I think we can go with any questions. Um, Are there any additional questions in the chat box?
Thank you so much, Angie. It was an amazing presentation for the overview. We had multiple questions in the chat box, which I've tried to, answer one by one. But if there are any questions, feel free to raise your hand and, speak and share If you have any questions related to the application and, related to even what is global surgery, if you just want to get an idea about, what kind of things to expect. Yes, hi Lena. So for applying to the positions, on our Instagram handle or any social media, you can see the application form for the international team. So you can apply through there. And, you know, uh, I think Angie, the QR code is also in the presentation. So maybe the application link, if you can share in the chat box or somewhere. And through that link, you can
Yes.
apply, Lena. At the same time, you can email us as well, and we'll help you send the direct link as well. Secondly, if which country are you joining us from, Lena? I would love to know about that. So I can guide you specifically about that national working groups and the activities. Secondly, is the delegation just oh, you're from Colombia, then I can also connect you to InciSioN Colombia. And I think there's also one more member from InciSioN Colombia. So you guys, I can probably connect you because I'm hoping that they're also looking at the, new leadership right now. So that would be helpful. And all the very best. Apply through the international team and, we'll get in touch with you. Is the delegation, next question by Gift, is delegation just exclude? And I hope I'm pronouncing all your name right. Feel free to correct me. And I apologize in advance if I'm mispronouncing any of your name. So from Gift, is delegation just exclusively for the sub teams Angie mentioned, or could no? So that every time a delegation opportunity comes through, an internal application goes through within our national working groups and within our international team, and also to the general members. It depends upon the number of seats which we have. Sometimes some meetings only allow 3 members or 4 members to represent in the high office. Sometimes if the meeting is an opportunity which we can share with the general members, like the United Nations Commission on the Status for Women is coming up, which is the next UN delegation of 2020, the first UN delegation of 2025. So an application will go on even on our social media. But if you're an international team, of course, you get the access to the first-hand opportunity. You are trained to be at those delegation programs. And for all of our delegations, we consider the factor of equity in terms of representation, also in terms of representation from national working groups, representation from international team. So if you are a part of the international team, yes, it does increase your chances to be a delegation. It does not need to be the specific sub team. You can be from any sub team, and it will open for you, and you will be evaluated equally. So this next is who feel informed and get today's meeting. Yeah, I didn't quite get
I
your question. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you mean, do you mean people who didn't fill in the like
The
the application
application.
form or not? Like, because this is not intended for,
Mhm.
for that. Like, this is actually intended before you fill in the application to either improve the quality of your application, establish like what subteams are best for you, get an idea of like what it is that you want, what it is that you don't want, clarify myths and stuff and
Yeah. So I'm sorry, Haram, but for this meeting, there was a separate registration form which people had to fill, and they would get, because this is not like for if you have only filled the application form, because it's more of a pre-application form, or even to help you navigate the process. Yes, Vardhini has raised her hand, and I would like to give her an opportunity to speak.
Yeah, hi. I'm Vardhini. I'm a medical student from India, and I was hoping to ask you guys, is there a baseline requirement? Because I'm a second year right now, heading into my third. So, is there a baseline requirement for any sort of position to be part of the international team or to be part of the national working group, whichever one, you know? Because I know there's lots of experienced people working as well, so I'm trying to assess what would be a better fit.
Yeah. So as of now, you just need to fulfill the eligibility criteria which have been set in the application form. For there does not need to be a baseline, training or capacity which you need to join InciSioN. There are some baseline, things which I've set in the application form, like are you comfortable accessing Google Drive, or are you comfortable with email communications, or things like that, because that's how the organization is functioning. Once you join the international team, we are more than happy to be your first home for global surgery. Once you join the international team, for the first 1 month, you'll have a training procedure itself. So you'll, we'll give you all the resources to understand what global surgery is, understand your roles, and your team leads, your executive board team lead would help you, understand your roles and, help you train and gain that capacity. So there does not need to be a baseline. And if I look, at the current, composition, we have specialist doctors as part of some of the teams who are practicing in various countries. We also have resident doctors from across the world who are, being part of us. And we also have, medical students and nursing students and, students who are working in public health or in biomedical engineering who are part of the team. So it's a very diverse composition of the group. And as soon as you join, we'll make sure that you have the necessary, capacity to, give your best to the global surgery and to InciSioN. So yeah, I hope I answer your question.
Yes, thank you so much. That was very helpful.
I would
Thank
just
you.
like to add to that a little bit is like when we ask for certain like types of first of all, when we ask about certain skills, it's also kind of just helpful for us in order to, match you to teams, right? Because like, I mean, if you're not good at Google Drive, at all, then you're definitely not going on the internal affairs team, right? Because that's like super important. It kind of just helps us like not match you into like a place where we're not setting you up to succeed, right? Because like our job is to ensure that you're as successful as possible. And then regarding like the specific questions and from the sub teams, right? So when you apply and you choose like your choices for sub teams, we'll do our best to match you. But like the questions that you see there, right? They're mostly there for us to see what your ideas are. So if you see on our FAQ page, on like some um, like suggestions for applications, we very heavily look for ideas rather than like an extensive CV, right? What we want to see is like we care less about like if I mean, to an extent, like it's important to have experience, like again, like as Pratush mentioned, and we'll say it over and over, it's we're more than happy to be your first exposure to global surgery, right? It's more of a mindset, like are you good at communicating? Are you good at like time management, right? That's more than like that's where our focus is going to be. So when you like answer the questions and like and they involve like ideas, you want to we want to see that your ideas are smart, like SMART. By that I mean, right? Because they have to be attainable and achievable and like, and that sort of stuff, right? We like what we ask for is very intentional, it's less about like did I get you or something, or do you actually know? It's less about that. It's more of us assessing your mindset and how you approach a problem or how you would do something, right? Like that's where they're all coming from. So I hope that adds.
Yeah, that helped a lot. Thank you very much for that.
There's another question from Eric. Go ahead.
So, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Yeah, so I'm Eric Komunga and I'm from Kenya. So I did my application actually for the international team. So during my application, I came across this part that says I should actually rank each option from 1 to 10, depending on my interest and passion. So this was these issues related with anesthesia, digital health, in global
Yeah.
surgery, neurosurgery, and all those sorts of things. So my question was, how are you going to use this to probably know exactly which team you're going to place me in?
So
Yeah.
And
yeah,
also,
sorry. Finish.
my second question. So after I completed my application form and submitted, I realized that my second option, I would have actually gone for a better option that I thought I would have actually been better at that than the second option that I'd already submitted. So is it really possible to make any changes? So those are my only two questions.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Eric. So for your first question, we put that for two reasons. So as I share that, we started a strategic working groups where we want to have, students who are interested in diverse fields. So it will help us, to, if you're applying, one of your options is strategic working groups. Definitely, we want to have people who are, interested in all over the place, right? So that we have a diverse team or motivated in all subsections of global health and global surgery. Even if you're applying in different teams, for example, if you go in research, we would want the research team to have students from neurosurgery, cardiac surgery, and, surgical technology and various specialties, because then, you can collaborate with the strategic working groups to, generate opportunities. So it's going to, help us to identify so that we have people, interested in all domains of global health and global surgery, and our operations are widespread. But this is not something very serious you have to worry about, it's not going to be one of the decision making, parameters in that way. It's just for us to understand that, okay, this is the cohort we are selecting, and this is the priorities, based on what, the students are interested in, right? For the second question, is the change you want to make is only about the preference order in your application, right? As far as I understood. So if that is the same, you can email us a special request and we'll go through your application and manually put a note on that, if that helps. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think Aisha has put a question connect you. So InciSioN Pakistan is currently chaired by Dr. Amna, and I think we can put you in touch to InciSioN Pakistan. They have been doing an amazing job. They're even working with the ministry in Pakistan, with the health ministry in Pakistan to generate some good opportunities and, talk global surgery. So they're an amazing national working groups, and we'll help you. Just put us an email. So what we'll do is we'll forward that email to, that specific country, email, and, connect you that through that, because that way it would be more sustainable and the communication would be kept in loop. So yeah, I'm meaning you have to email us. It would be difficult for us to pick all the emails through this chat and, identify which email to send for which country. I'll again put the email. It's all over the place, but I'll put the email in the chat box. So just put us an email. Hi, I'm this, and can you connect me to institution XYZ, and, we'll help with that. Yeah. Any other questions? There was one common question about the application processing time, and this is something we want to an application evaluation in the chat box. I didn't respond it in the chat because I wanted to be very transparent about this. So we are in InciSioN, we have a very transparent model of application evaluation, right? All the applications come in every year. We receive around 400, 500 applications, or sometimes maybe the more this time. Because how what we do is, all the applications have a preference order and the objective questions. Each objective question carries a weightage of marks. Some of the questions are also non-evaluated. For example, when you will go through the application, some of the questions will say, so we don't consider this for evaluation. This is for us to understand about your current baseline, or, your interest. There are some questions which are evaluated, and then these questions are evaluated by 3 independent reviewers. These reviewers will have access to the answers of these questions, and will also have access to, the other parameters, the like your interest and everything, and they'll score you on an objective scale. And then all these numbers will be averaged, and the rank ordered list of all the applications will come up. Now, what the executive board will do is that we'll sit together to ensure equity. We'll see the country representation, we'll see the gender representation, and we'll also consider your preferences. And you'll be the executive board will start placing you in specific fields based on how your application aligns with the needs or the requirements of a specific field. We also have small AI algorithms to help us, evaluate the preferences and everything. And that is also, but more or less, we handpick applications, and, the entire team, the entire executive board of 12 people will handpick applications, sit together, look at every application one by one on the rank order list, and see, okay, this application, the skills is like something which we need in the research. So this is what VPI, and that's your first preference. Another thing to note is, the application, you're put in a team not based on our preferences. For example, if your third preference is research and your first preference is education, we'll always prioritize to put you in education team. But if the education team is filled already, then, we look at your second preference. So it's, applicant favoring, not the board favoring in some way. So I hope I was, and for timeline, once the application closes on December 10th, we are also in executive board election procedures right now. A new executive board elections is also going to take place. And then within around 20 days of the closure of IT applications, around 20 to 25 days you can expect to hear from us, and in case the application evaluation takes more than, because I said sometimes applications go even more than over, 400 and 500, and we are 12 people of the executive board and we restricted to the 12 people in executive board because we are very considerate about the data which you have shared with us, and we follow the GDPR regulations very strictly. So in case there is any change in timeline, we'll inform all the applicants through email about. And even when the application closes, we'll send you a notification with all the application updates on when can you hear to expect a result, when can you hear to expect an interview maybe, and things like that, right? Another thing to note is another question I got about the executive board. So our executive board applications opens priorly for the international team, because you have worked in internal affairs for 1 year, then you'll have the first opportunity to apply for the vice president of internal affairs. This is a round one of elections. But in round two, and this year we also have new teams. So there would be a round two of elections as well, where you might get an opportunity if you're selected in the international team through the application to apply for an executive board positions, right? And that is how things goes. I hope I was able to answer that question as well. Is there any more questions? Feel free to ask us about anything, or even any
Just like I
opportunity
would
you're
like to
interested in.
add
Yes,
something
Angie.
to
Yes,
what
Angie.
something you said about the types of questions that we have. Like again, like additionally, it's very important for us to get an idea of what your interests are, how you work, It's mostly about like what you want, right? And that's also like important for you to like for the applicant themselves to know what they want, right? But in terms of specifically, the question on, for example, you have like all these different domains that you rank, right? Like global neurosurgery, global cardiac surgery, women's health, et cetera, et cetera. For us, it's mostly it's good for us to know as well because we have certain priority areas that we also want to 100% have in our team, right? And the thing is that like once you're in anywhere in the international team, in any of the sub teams, right, we are able to like reference this information to potentially like, approach people with specific like projects that come up, right? Because like sometimes projects just emerge, right? And let's say that all of a sudden there's like a global neurosurgery project, right? Like the global neurosurgery will probably be led and have its team like the project itself, right? Multidisciplinary team with people from any sub team, right? Because as I mentioned, like when we talk about the specific projects or initiatives, there's oftentimes a lot of overlap and a lot of people involved from many different teams, and you need it, right? Because you need different perspectives, but we'll give like priority to people with that interest. So like if there's a global neurosurgery initiative going on, then we'll first approach the people interested in global neurosurgery, right? And such, right? It's a very much us understanding what it is that your aspirations, your interests, because ultimately if you enjoy the project that you're doing and that you're involved with, then you're more likely to succeed in it, and you're also more likely to like have produce high quality results.
Yeah.
So
Just adding one more thing is that also keep in mind that, for example, if you get in an education team or in any other teams, right? It's not like you'll do just that work. If you want to do a research, I know this year finance team did a research on global health financing. It's a very interesting paper which they're working on. And most of the advocacy team has done some work as well, and by writing papers on their, advocacy workshops and things like that. So it's a very diverse opportunities, and you can always collaborate with other teams to do the kind of work which you're interested in. So, yeah, and by that, I also know that we are hitting the 1 hour mark. So please feel free to raise hands or, put your questions in the chat box if you have any. We'll be open for how many more minutes, Sanjay?
I think maybe like just 10 more minutes or 5 more minutes. Because we did start like at 8:05. I mean at 7:05.
Sure, we can wait
Um,
for 10 more minutes. If there's any question you want to ask or, any closing thoughts or even any feedback, if you have any feedback to the process which we have talked about or, any feedback to the what the work which we are doing, feel free to reach out. We are open to feedback and listening how we can also improve ourselves.
Yeah, I also wanted to actually add, before I forget, that like feel free to share it with other people, right? That you think that being part of the international team would be, not only like a great learning experience, et cetera, et cetera, but also because like we don't exactly have like a fixed number of applicants that we're going to accept. Ultimately, like if you are um a good fit, right? We'll take you. I mean, it's very rare, like if we're not able to. It's, I mean, if you can't be matched to a certain team that you wanted to, and then you decline to like accept like any third, fourth, or additional choices, and like that's that. But ultimately, we don't like we're not limited to a fixed number, right? So there's no need to keep opportunities away from other people because I know like competition is a bit rough these days. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And also, because I know, people will start leaving in bit. So would everyone be up for a group photograph, maybe? And we'll post it on the Instagram. And if you want to get tagged, you can respond back to the story and we'll tag you also. And after all, you are the future of, global surgery. So I think it would be good to have a photograph of this open house. If you're comfortable, feel free to open your camera and yeah, just pose whatever you like, right?
Okay. I'll take a picture if
Yeah.
anybody wants
I
to.
think maybe a minute to for everyone to just,
Yeah.
switch on their video cameras and we can see. It's so good when people switch on the video cameras because otherwise, sometimes I feel like I'm talking to the screen. So yeah, it's so good to
No,
see that.
you're talking to me.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. So yeah. Okay, we'll
Is
click the
it, is
photograph
that
in
all? Is that all
five,
people are gonna turn on?
4, 3, 2. Okay, Angie can click the photograph now.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Perfect. You can. How are we tagging people?
I think they can respond back to the story and we can ask a lot to just add mentions through them.
Yeah, we can do that for sure.
Or if you want, you can put your Instagram handle in the chat also. I can copy paste and save it. Everything works for us. Thank you so much. And as I said, you're the future of global surgery. So all the very best. We need people and students like you who are motivated in global health and global surgery because we are also at a very crucial time in global health where we are trying to navigate, things and we need your help. So all the very best and looking forward on having probably seeing a lot of your faces, when you join the international team. Fingers crossed on that. All the very best. And if there's any questions, we'll hang around for like 5 to 10 minutes more, and then yeah. Thank you.
Well, at least we did something, right? It's like it's actually helpful for people.
Yeah,
That would have been like embarrassing if it wasn't actually helpful, right?
yeah,
But
yeah. I think we can stop the recording now and the stream.
yes.
Oh.